Buddy, this is pre-lesson number 2. So I'm giving you these pre-lessons because there's some things that I could explain to you before you come to your first practice and let it sink in for a while so you'll understand it when we get there. Today I'm going to explain the names of the different areas on the part of your tamburitza instrument. Now I'm using a brach for my example, but I'm going to also show you a prime. A prime is smaller than a brach. Prime plays higher notes than the brach. They all have the same strings, and when you're playing the lead instruments, the melodies, you'll be playing one of these two instruments. They're all the same, they're just different sizes and shapes. But what I'm going to explain today, I'll just use a brach for an example. Okay. We're going to start with the top of your instrument. And from the top means where the tuning keys are. And these are tuning keys right up here, and I'll explain that in a second. So just think of your body. Here's my head. Well, the top of your instrument from here to here is called the head. And we're just going to go down the instrument towards my feet. So the top of your instrument is like the head of your body, and the bottom of the instrument is towards your feet. Okay, and the top of your instrument here, from this white area here, where the strings are being held in place, to the top is the head. Right in here, you'll have white keys, your tuning keys. This is what I use, or you're going to use, to tune your instruments up. And they tighten or loosen the strings. Some instruments have 5 of these, some have 6. It depends on the instrument. The bass has 4. It just depends how many strings your instrument has. And I'll explain why some have more and less later on. But today's lesson is just to understand what the names of the parts of your instrument are. So like your head, we have the head of the instrument. On the head we have tuning keys, which are used to tighten and loosen the strings. Okay, right below that head, there's a white piece here, and it's called the nut. And if I bring it in real close, you can see that there's grooves in it, and your strings are being held in place there. So the nut's function on your instrument is to hold the strings in place on the top of your instrument so that they're equally distant from each other. Now some instruments have 5 strings, some might even have 6, but that doesn't matter. These are double strings. A double string just means you play 2 at once. It gives you more volume. They're not different tuned strings. They're the same string tuned wise, but they're just 2 of them so that when you play, your instrument sounds louder. Usually it's the first string. Sometimes instruments have the double second, but most likely it's your first string that's doubled on almost all the instruments. And then the second string and the third string are single strings. So the nut holds them in place. Now, from the nut down, I'll review this. We have the head, the tuning keys, the nut. Then, just like your body, you have this area from here to here. That's the neck. Like my neck, head, neck. So the area from the nut here all the way down to where the frets end is called the neck of your instrument. So on the neck of the instrument, this is where you're going to play, you have little metal strips. And they're called frets. So these little metal strips are called frets. So when you play a note, you don't touch the fret, you play in between the frets. So, but for right now, the little metal strips are called frets. Now in music it gets confusing sometimes because these metal strips are called frets, but when I'm asking you to grab a fret, like say fret number 1, I don't mean touch the metal, I'm going to mean the area in between the fret. So like from the nut to the first metal strip would be fret number 1. The next metal strip to the next metal strip in between would be fret number 2, fret number 3, fret number 4. So it's terminology, and there's a lot of terms in music where they mean this different things, and it's the same word. So in this case, fret is the metal piece, but when I say fret number, I mean the area in between the frets, those metal strips, okay? So when I say fret number, you're looking at the area in between the frets. When I refer to the word fret itself, that just means the metal strip. All right, on your instruments, you see these white dots. I'll explain them when we get to your first practice, or maybe I'll do another video. But actually what they do is they help you find out your notes. If you know that your second, you see a dot here, you dot here, and they could be squares, they could be anything that Tamburitza made. They're also on the side of your instruments. So there's a dot there, a dot there, a dot there. There's a dot on top, on top, on top. Those are called position marks. And they mean just what it says. They mark your position. So instead of me counting, if I know that the second fret, you know, I knew the name of that string or that note, that way I can just look on the side and not have to look at my hand and know what note that is. That's farther down the line. I just want you to know now that these white dots or squares or whatever, rectangles or whatever the maker of the instrument did, those are called position marks, and they're used to help you find your notes quicker. All right, so what we have so far is the head, the tuning keys, the nut, the neck, and the position marks on the neck, and the frets that run across. And remember, those are frets. Fret numbers are the area in between them, and you'll learn that on the next lesson. All right, so now we're going down. We have the head, we have the neck, and we want to see the rest of the instrument. Well, this whole top piece, and this just happens to be made like a pear, but some instruments are made that look like a guitar. You know, it depends how the maker made the instrument. There's no right way or wrong way. Each has its own preference. Well, this whole top piece, the whole piece, is called the top sounding board. And that's just what the top of the instrument is called, the top sounding board. Now, in the instrument itself, you either going to have a hole, or let's see, I'll bring the preem out. On the preem you have little dots, but all acoustical instruments have some. It might be like a little F shape, like my Bugatti has. That's called the sounding hole, and that's how the sound escapes from your instrument. So the hole in your instrument, no matter what size it is, small, big, different kind of shape, is called the sounding hole. Now, on this instrument, we have the top sounding board, and in the middle of it somewhere, or on the side, you have the sound hole for the sound to escape. Then you have where the wood ends. That's all wood, and then you'll have a piece that's covering the wood some more partially. And that's called the scratch board, and that's used to protect the instrument when you use your pick and you hit the strings. If that wasn't there, you'd be gouging the wood all the time. So that's called the scratch board. And they're made so many different ways I can't even tell you. You know, this one has ornament on it, it has a butterfly, some have are just plain. But all of them have a scratch board. Because if you didn't have that, a guitar player, a tamburitza player, anybody that has a wooden instrument, they're bound to hit the wood sometimes, and it would scratch the wood up. So that's why they call it a scratch board. All right, as we go farther down the instrument, remember this is the head, and when I say down, I mean towards your feet on an instrument. We've got a piece right here, and that's called the bridge. And that holds the strings in place on the bottom of your instrument. So the nut holds them in place on top, and the bridge holds them in place on the bottom. And that's the only place that you can play in it, that you'll get sound from, is between the nut and the bridge. because nothing, this is just tension up here, and that's just tension down there. So where the string vibrates is between the bridge and the nut. So the bottom piece here is called the bridge. Below the bridge, where the strings fasten to your instrument, it's covered up, this metal piece is called the tailpiece. And that's just a covering for your strings. And it pops up. I don't know if I can get this off. Yeah. Yeah. Come on, come on, come on. There. It pops out, see? And there's where the strings are attached. And when you break a string, or I have to change your string, or you change your own string, you have to remove that, and then it just slides back on. I push it down, and that's just a guard. It's called the tailpiece. And this little knob on the bottom, that's for your strap. That connects your guitar strap. And this instrument doesn't have a strap on it. And if you had a strap, you'd tie it around the top of your instrument, and you slip it onto the bottom, and that would hold your instrument up. All right, so those are all the things that you need to know about your tamburitza. They're all the same. Heck, I'll pull a preem out and show you it's the same. Here's the preem, smaller instrument. Preems play higher notes than the brach. It's like the treble on your stereo. This would be the high end. The brach would be the middle. And then you'd have another instrument called the cello, which would be, a lower sound than the brach. That would be like your bass sound. But here we go. Here's your head. And you notice this one has 6 tuning keys because it does have a double first string and a double second string. So it's got double G's, double D's, single, single. So again, the double strings, it's the same string. And when you're playing it, you're going to hit both at once. And it's just to give you more volume. So this preem's going to be very loud because it's got a double-double. So again, we've got the head, the tuning keys, the nut, there's your neck, there's the position marks. See, every instrument has them. They're there on the side. Then you go down below, there's your top sounding board. There's your scratch board to protect it from when you hit the strings. And there's, on this instrument, these preems have little sound holes. These preems are very loud. That's a bridge. There's your tailpiece, and that's where it protects, that's where it connects to your strings to your instrument. So I just want you to understand what everything is called on your instrument. And actually I'll bring a Bugatti out just to show you too. Bugattis play the chords, preems play the melody, brachs play the melody, Bugatti plays the chords like a guitar does. Let me bring it out. Here's a Bugatti, and mine, I have my strap that's all tangled up. But again, same deal. Here's your head, there's your tuning keys, there's your nut, here's your neck, there's my position marks, just like the brachs and the preems and all the other instruments. There's my top sounding board, here's my scratch board, and this one here's my sound holes are made like a little F. Then I have my bridge on the bottom, my tailpiece, and the piece to connect to hold your strap. And that's your whole instrument. Bugattis play the chords, and preems and brachs play the melody, so this is just like a guitar in a rock and roll band. Okay? So, I'm not here today to explain what all the instruments do, but I just wanted you to understand what the names of the parts of your instruments are today. I'm trying to do this ahead of time so that when you get there, you have a little understanding at your first practice of what some of the terms are for your instrument, okay, and what they do. All right, Can't wait to see you September 24th at our first practice.